This entire Netflix style interview setup fits into one singular bag. And the best thing of all, it's done with budget gear and smart alternatives. More and more of us are now shooting solo or with very small crews. And that pushed me to create a setup that is super lightweight, but still professional enough that clients cannot tell a difference. So in this video, I will tell you how to pack everything down into one singular bag without any compromise and show you whether this setup stands up to the real professional standard. Now, I used to be someone who was obsessed with Pelican cases. I bought way too many of them, but with the way that modern day filmmaking is going, my needs are definitely changing. So I needed a bag that was big enough to fit all the equipment I need inside of it, also something that was easy to move around, that was not going to put strain on my body or hurt my back, and finally something that worked for traveling on aeroplanes and other public transport. But here is why this bag has been a game changer for me. It has a 30-litre main compartment, but also has an extra 10-litre expandable compartment that unzips and makes the bag bigger, but also zips away when it is not needed. Definitely the smoothest wheels I've ever used on any bag. It is super satisfying to just push around and wheel. It also has a retractable handle with 3 different stages, and it's unusual because it's the full length of the bag, where normally the handles are just kind of 2/3 of the bag. The wheels detach with this little locking mechanism, and then they store inside the bag itself, and it becomes a backpack. So this is not only a wheel roller case, it is a backpack as well. It has a dedicated laptop and tablet compartment that can be both stored away at the same time. It also comes with this digital cable/battery organizer that is super clever because it has these little green and red switches for you to arrange dead batteries with fully charged batteries. And a few other things I love: it comes with a rain cover included, has a hidden smart tag compartment. It also has a strap on the outside so you can externally attach a tripod to the bag. This bag is the PGY Tech Roller Camera Backpack. I could talk about this bag all day long, but for the sake to keep this video moving, this bag is the best I've ever used. There are so many amazing cameras for under like 5k nowadays. We are absolutely spoilt for choice. So don't focus too much on the camera itself, because it's everything around the camera that is really going to make the difference. The camera I find myself keep grabbing and going for all the time is the Lumix S1R Mark II. I just think it's great value. It's really small. It just has features it shouldn't really have for its size and price. For lenses, I'm going to go anamorphic. Now, I'm not someone who loves to throw the word cinematic around. It's overused and lost so much of its meaning, but I would say anamorphic lenses are a really great way to achieve cinematic images. So because I feel like it is almost the perfect lens for achieving a budget, small, easy to carry around setup, I'm going to be using the new Sirui Ironstar 1.5 anamorphics. The only problem here is we have a Lumix S1R2, which is L mount, and then we have an Ironstar Sirui anamorphic, which is PL mount. So we're going to need an adapter. We can turn this negative into a positive though, as I'm going to use the Morpharge Poco adapter, which includes built-in variable ND filters. There's many benefits having your ND built inside your adapter. You're not going to screw on and off filters all shoot long. You're much less likely to have scratches and imperfections show up in any images, as they're much closer to the sensor. But what I really love is just the feel of it being like built-in NDs inside the camera. And it is a variable ND, meaning it feels like the ones we get in the FX line cameras from Sony. Before we move on from camera and lenses, I just want to add one last thing, and that is an external monitor. I personally hate the screens on mirrorless cameras. They're too small and they've just led to too many mistakes in my experience. So I'm going to bring the Axoon M7 7-inch monitor. It's super lightweight, great battery life, and super color accurate. That ticks all the boxes I need to fix that small mirrorless camera screen problem. So moving on to lighting. Now this is a part of the industry that's taken big steps in even the last 2 or 3 years. We can now get really powerful LED fixtures really small, enabling us to fit it all in one bag alongside our lenses and cameras. My first light is going to be the Sirui 300X. This is a stupidly small light to say it's got 300 watts of power and is also bi-color, which is really important because we're not going to be taking tons of lighting equipment. We can't really go into a location and change the whole ambience, so we're going to need our light to work alongside the existing colour temperatures. And the second light is the Sure 60X. Pairs beautifully with that 300X, and again comes with the bicolor. It's even smaller, has a built-in battery this time as well, so you can rig it up in really awkward places and not have to worry about power. And also, because we'll be using the 60X as a backlight, it comes with this really mini Fresnel lens, as normally Fresnel lenses are big and take up lots of room inside your case. And the third and final light is the Aperture MC Pro. This is just old reliable. This thing just works. It's super small, super easy to use. You can trust the colour accuracy, and I use it for like an eye light or maybe just to fill in some shadows if I want to pick it up. It's kind of there just to aid and help when needed. Easily the most overlooked part of video creation. We're so happy to spend thousands on a camera and a lens and some lights and tripods, then we'll take like 10% of our budget and spend that on audio, yet on the end result it's like 50% of the viewing experience. The great news here though is audio equipment is following along with the rest of the industry, and the more affordable stuff is now becoming really great. I would say the DJI Mic Minis or the DJI Mic 203s are kind of like the go-to standard. My only issue here is I think seeing a branded mic in shot kind of screams content creator. And we are trying to get that pro interview look. You don't really want to see a mic at all. Caveat that though with, even if you poke, say, a wired lav mic just out the top, I still think that speaks on a much more professional look than, say, if you could see the DJI mic on the chest. I'm going to use the Sennheiser AVX system, which is kind of overpriced and expensive. It's also a bit old, it doesn't have USB-C, and it probably needs updating. A better way to do this would be maybe to pick up a Zoom F2 recorder with its 32-bit and then purchase the Sennheiser Lav Me 2 mic by itself. Combining the price of these also is like 70 to 80% cheaper than picking up the Sennheiser AVX, and it probably has identical sound quality. Right, on to support gear. You're going to need a tripod and some light stands to put them lights on. For me, this is the biggest compromise. This is kind of the part of the industry that has not yet adapted to kind of solo filmmaking at a high professional level. I just want to be transparent here and say that for 99% of my shoots, I do just put C-stands in my car, or I just find a way to get C-stands to the shoot. If I could not do that, then I would probably go down the route of Manfrotto or nanopoles. I did used to own some of these, I no longer use them. What I hate about them is they wobble, but with how small the lights are in this one bag setup, I think you'd be totally fine. Manfrotto kind of designed them to be so small and light. The wobble is just a nature of how they are made. But you would easily fit two of these in this bag setup if you really needed to. And for tripods, there are two different options I kind of jump back and forth between depending on camera package. The first one would be to use a travel tripod. You can keep it really small, it just slides in the side, or you can strap it with that strap on the bag we talked about. And the one I use is the Freewell travel tripod. It's carbon fibre, it's crazy light, and you can relatively trust this with most mirrorless setups. But the second one, what I'll be using for this setup, is to use a tripod travel bag. You can wear these things over one shoulder, just like a backpack. I would just make sure that you pair one of these with a relatively light tripod. I've recently been reviewing the Small Rig Tribex SE, which is kind of the cheaper, more affordable, smaller one, and it pairs perfectly with just wearing this, and it is light enough to not do any damage. Next, we'll go into how we're going to set up all this equipment, and I'll give you all my advice, tips and tricks to get the best, most professional looking interview. But right before that, let me show you an even better way of leveling up your creative skills. I've been using Skillshare for so long now, and one of the recent classes I've been diving into is the Cinematic Lighting Masterclass by Ade Singh. I just love how practical it is, and that's what makes Skillshare so good. It's packed with classes taught by real working professionals, and it is not just for filmmaking. There's thousands of classes across art, design, photography, even business and productivity. So whether you're trying to build up your career, sharpen your creative skill, or even just start a new hobby, there's something for you. And the great part is you can learn at your own pace. I like to get classes in on my breaks or learn in the evening where I can dive into a full class. It's just really great for not feeling like it gets in the way. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive 1 month's free trial of Skillshare, so get started today. So a massive thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's walk through how we are going to set up this interview. So the first place you're going to start with all interviews is just blocking out and positioning in the location. And here are my main tips. Do not think about the person or subject first. Try and think about the background. I was super guilty of this. I would just turn up at the location and kind of look for a nice space where I could put the subject, where really you want to be thinking about what the background is that the camera will see. And then once you have sorted what is going to be behind the subject, you then want to start working out your subject and camera positions. This can slightly change depending on lens, but most interview main shots will be shot at 24 or 35mm. Now most people think that the blurry background is going to come from aperture, and while that does affect it, there is something way more important at play. The biggest difference here is going to be distance. You want as much space between the background and your subject as possible. This often looks like the camera being backed up to the wall and you're behind the camera with your back to a wall, and then the subject is like 5 or 6 feet in front of the lens. And even if you are someone who's not chasing the craziest blur in the background, this will still give you more freedom to step down your lens, framing and positioning. It's just always best to start off here and move away from the wall if you do not like it. For framing, eye line is normally the standard. 99% of the time I'm either eye line or very slightly above or below it. Rule of thirds always works great. Try and have the negative space to one side. If the subject is going to be delivering straight down the lens to the camera, personally I like to lock them off symmetrically and have them in the center of the shot. But rules are made to be broken, so feel free to experiment a bit, and if anything looks good and you think it's going to work in your project, do it. For lighting, it is all about shadows. If we flip this on its head and say we are trying to set up for a corporate clean style interview, then we would say minimal shadows. We would do lots of light, super bright background, bright person. Even a talking head like this on YouTube or a news presenter, for example, you're going to kind of light them flat and clean. So when you are after a cinematic interview, you want the total opposite. You want shadows. You want to be pushing shadows towards the camera. Try to make sure that your key light, your main brightest light source, is not by the lens at all. You want it off to one of the sides so that we get depth and shape across our subject. The Rembrandt triangle is a great place to start here. This is where you get a little triangle of light. Why this is such a great starting point is it forces you to place your key light off to one of the sides, meaning that the nose does a shadow to create that Rembrandt triangle. Start here and then just move it left, right, back, forward, up, down until the image on the monitor looks good. And then once your key light is set, normally we would place the backlight off to the opposite side. Even better if you can get it rigged up into the ceiling. Just try and get some more backlight, pushing more shadow towards that lens. For modifiers of your lights, it is just a rule of thumb. Again, it's there to be broken, but we normally have a soft key. So the main bright light source is kind of soft light, and then we have a harder source of light on our backlight. I recently have been using lantern modifiers. I normally use these to light spaces, but recently I just love the way these look on people. I know it's much less controlled than an octobox style softbox because you can't grid them as easy and you have to use the skirts, but I just find that especially in a setup like this, because we're working with the ambience of the room and we're on minimal kit, using a lantern is a real cheat code. And I mentioned make sure the light is bicolor, because what I would normally do then, take a step back and just kind of eyeball the room, whether it's the windows or some built-in, whichever your brightest light source is, just adjust the bicolor on your light. We don't want to be fighting the light and we don't want mixed color sources. We just kind of want it to all look natural and evenly lit. Something I would also do here is step down your lens. Lenses are always at their worst wide open. We spoke before about the background depth. If you want that, Move your subject closer and further away, as the closer you are to the lens, the more the background will blur. And if you're on a Super 35 or full frame sensor, you are going to get a blurry background regardless of what your aperture is at. Now I would move on to audio, again the most underrated part of this setup. I am no sound operator, but I understand with modern day filmmaking we have to wear so many hats now, we just simply have to be good at audio. My main piece of advice in my experience is just test, test, test. The golden rule here is the center of the chest. Now with lav mics, it depends on close, but I would try and not go off to the left or the right, as when they tilt the head one direction or another, the levels will drastically go up and down. I would prefer to be higher up towards the throat and center than I would say lower down and off to the left or the right. So ideally you want to be lower down and center, but that cannot always be achieved. And for audio, people always say aim for the loudest point to be -12. This may seem like it's a little bit low, but we are leaving the headroom for those really loud moments or that big laugh that would normally clip your audio. It's better to have it too quiet and have to bring it up and denoise it than it is to clip it, because if the audio clips, that is done for. Super important one that people forget: just tell everyone in the room, everyone on the set, just to be quiet and listen to the environment. Is there an AC on? Is there a fridge? You can turn off that fridge or ask someone to try and fix the AC. The more quieter you'll get it, the crisper your audio will be. Make sure that you have a good, nice pair of headphones and wear them 100% of the time through the entire interview. If a plane passes overhead, if someone shouts in the distance, you wait for the subject to finish their line and you say, can I please do that again? And since you have made it this far in the video, YouTube have added a brand new hype button, so please look for and hit that below. And also YouTube thinks you are going to love this video right here.